Hello, I'm Only Jax. I'd like to talk to you about the worst 3 months of my life. In June of this year, I posted a video called Zoophilia is Not Morally Permissible in an attempt to draw attention to some online degenerates who like to do bedroom stuff with animals, as well as kick off my YouTube career. It, to everyone's surprise, garnered around 37,000 views. I was happy with the performance and excited to start my YouTube journey on a high note. Then I posted my infamous Apology Cop video, wherein I covered iDubbbz, Dr. Disrespect, and Colleen Ballinger. And I was reminded very harshly that I'm just some guy, not a famous or particularly skilled YouTuber. It only garnered around 2,500 views. I received comments like, "Wow, that was a 9-minute skippable intro. You've got to have a record at this point. And you should apologize for this video, to be fair. As well as, that intro is literally iconic." Oh, wait, no, that one's actually kind. But one comment said I should make it a series, so, if it's not obvious by now, we're doing this one on In Praise of Shadows. Back in May of this year, 2024, a horror YouTuber by the name of In Praise of Shadows uploaded a video called Bad Conservative Horror Movies, wherein, surprisingly, he didn't really talk about bad conservative horror movies. Rather, he spent around 40 minutes of his 3-hour-long video talking about and making damaging claims about a group of YouTubers, with one of them in particular getting the most shade. The main target of In Praise of Shadows, or IPOS, was Wendigoon. Wendigoon, for those who are unfamiliar, is a horror and conspiracy storytime YouTuber who talks about horror, missing people, conspiracy theories, among other things, who at the time of writing has just under 4 million subscribers. IPOS called Wendigoon out for allegedly being a Nazi, being friends with people who promote grape, and having traditional Christian values, as well as I think being a racist, but I can't remember. He said a lot of nonsense about Wendigoon and those who associate with him, so, well, take a listen.
If you're not aware, Wendigoon is a horror conspiracy theorist YouTuber with several million subscribers that, as you will hopefully come to see, should not be seen as the wholesome, southern-friendly dad persona that he has publicly constructed around himself in the past several years. And that, like many people who talk about being Christians as much as he does, has a dark past with deep ties to far-right extremism. He himself has inadvertently admitted that his family at one point had millions of dollars. Wendigoon is very publicly friends with Turkey Tom. Tom has been accused of using the N-word multiple times in private conversations. Wendigoon is publicly connected to the Internet Historian, and has even appeared in his videos. The Internet Historian publicly said that his birthday was April 20th. It is not, and has only said that as a joke because that is Hitler's birthday. Wendigoon is publicly friends with Donut Operator, and even retweeted a photograph of the two of them hugging. He is publicly friends with Shoe on Head, who is a conservative masquerading as a leftist. He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun YouTuber who has been accused of threatening. He is friends with Oompaville, a gun-obsessed content creator that has taken advantage of Nakado Avocado's mental decline for fame and for money.
The backlash IPOS got was intense. Brandon Buckingham, Oompaville, some ordinary gamers all wound up making responses to IPOS where they obviously defended Wendigoon. IPOS also wound up getting a fair and, I would say, deserved amount of general online hate for their objectively awful take about Wendigoon and his pals. Wendigoon was even interviewed about all of it, and in the interview, he wound up wishing IPOS the best in his career, but couldn't really wrap his head around why IPOS would try to make this hit piece in the first place. The pressure became too much for IPOS, so he at first edited out the Wendigoon section of the Bad Conservative Horror Movies video before just taking the entire video down altogether. In a statement that was behind a paywall, he acknowledged that overall he thought he had done some real good in the video, although he does admit he could have said it all better. He didn't take any real responsibility for the wild things he had said about Wendigoon, and so once this Patreon statement was leaked outside of Patreon, the shit he was getting compounded. And then it was compounded even further when he said in a community post that, yeah, the research he did wasn't up to par with what he should have done. He didn't really get into specifics about what parts he was talking about, as well as he drew attention to how he was getting a ton of hate on Twitter and the wider internet, and said that, quote, "I do think it's dangerous that these creators do not tweet or acknowledge the obvious situation at play, basically asking the creators he slandered to call their audience off of whatever crusade that they were on against IPOS. It's the opinion of this channel that the situation IPOS got himself into was his responsibility and his alone. Wendigoon, Brandon Buckingham, Oompaville, Mutahar really had no responsibility to call their audience off, and even if they did call them off, they would probably only be signal boosting the drama, as IPOS is a much smaller creator than any of the creators he called out. In the end, IPOS wound up taking around a 5-month break from YouTube, eventually coming back to the platform with a 5-hour video about John Waters, as well as a self-aware-ish apology video to his newly created second channel called IPOS Dark Sides, titled Clearing the Air. In this 18.5-minute video, he talks a little about a lot of things, and in this video there is an apology of sorts, which brings us to the video you're watching right now. Just a quick note before we start here, Brandon Buckingham commented on this apology stating that they've all forgiven IPOS for the slander in his original video, so IPOS will wind up having a score buffed because of that. I'm not sure how, but I'll find a way. I've seen this video now probably 6 times, and on my first viewing, I was actually pretty stoked with how it seems that he became a bit more self-aware and understands what all went wrong. But the more I watched it, the more I see a bit of a rewriting of history. So unlike the last apology cop, we're just gonna run this one play by play and grade it as we go. So let's get into it.
Hi. I don't really know how to start this, so I guess I'm just gonna start talking, I guess. It's been a while. Hope you've been okay. I didn't want to really use a script for this video because anything that I say will be talked negatively about. And if I'd used a written response, I felt like people would be like, oh, he's just, doing this for PR. I didn't want it to feel like a statement that a politician would put out. I just wanted to be me talking to you, human to human. So apologies if this is a bit rambly. This is a little different for me. I'm just gonna talk.
This isn't a critique of the apology video, just more something that kind of irks me in general, but your audience doesn't really need to know if what you're saying is scripted or not. I feel like so long as it's not obvious that someone who isn't you wrote the script, who cares? Writing a script, especially for a post-drama debrief / apology, is something that would take a lot of effort and reflection to accomplish. So yeah, maybe you run the risk of sounding scripted, but unless what you wrote isn't genuine, you really don't run the risk of sounding ungenuine. I don't know, just something I thought I would bring up.
And I guess I'll start with kind of a big piece of criticism was that I just sort of disappeared. And I did that kind of for 2 reasons. One was that, of course, anything that I said wasn't going to help the situation that was happening. And so I just left. And I didn't want to really talk about it, and this is the last time I'm ever going to publicly talk about the situation again. I just also felt that people would be kind of annoyed if I tried to come back and start making things again and just pretend like nothing ever happened. I didn't want to do that.
This is actually a very solid take from IPOS, and it shows a bit of growth as far as navigating the media landscape, it seems, but what do I know? He got himself into this mess with poor research and poor damage control after making a boatload of wild claims, and so I was surprised that he had the wherewithal just to take a clean step back. He was off YouTube for a clean 5 months before returning with this video. Tempers cool over time, and yeah, the maximum amount of hate and harassment he was going to get was 5 months ago. Taking the time to let people not so much forget, but rather stop caring, was probably the best course of action for his own self-preservation and ego. The people who hate him aren't going to just suddenly stop hating him, but it is likely that they just won't care enough to remind IPOS that they hate him.
Also, I don't really know how to make this video because the history of YouTube apology videos is a format that is consistently made fun of for good reason.
It's like he's talking to me directly.
And I'm not anti-apology at all. I'm not. It's just that usually someone who works on the internet will mess up and then immediately will put out an apology video and be I'm not that person anymore. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've changed, guys. And it's complete bullshit. Everybody knows that it's bullshit because you're what do you mean you're not that person anymore? You just said that thing 2 days ago. Of course you're that person. And so with my situation, I said I was going to be gone for a month. Clearly I needed a break. I wasn't doing very well. And I ended up taking more than that because I wasn't ready to come back. And I really wanted to come back with something that showed what I could do. That showed that I would be willing to listen to criticism of me, because I always am. I always want to do better. And so I hope that the John Waters video has kind of shown that. This was kind of a wake-up call moment for me. So you know, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
So far, the takes have been pretty good. I don't have much to add or critique, and I'm happy that he seems at least a little self-aware about the YouTube apology genre that he now has to participate in. The only thing is that at present, he's starting to talk as if he's about to minimize and rationalize rather than apologize. Time will tell.
One of the biggest things that has kind of always surprised me my whole like career on YouTube is people thinking that I hate Christians. And I don't at all. I don't hate religious people at all. I myself am a Methodist. And I have gone to annual conference with the Methodists for the past, I think, 4 years because I have an invested interest in how the church is dealing with LGBT members, which is an ongoing thing with the Methodists. I don't hate Christians at all. I can be very critical of Christians. I don't like evangelicals. I don't like proselytizers. And usually if I'm being critical of religious people, it's because they're using the religion as part of their online brand. And if you're like mixing money or your business with your religion, that is almost certainly like a perversion of whatever your religion is teaching. And, you know, I don't want to get into any things. I'm not trying to like double down here with what I'm saying in this. I'm not trying to like critique people. I'm just trying to talk about where I come from with things.
So here's the thing. He brings up here how he doesn't hate Christians, rather, he is a Christian and he hates when people mix their religion and their brand. At the surface, that doesn't sound so crazy, and it's not, but that's not relevant to the situation at hand. In his original video, he brings up that Wendigoon uses his Christianity to avoid criticism.
There are many things that are red flags that we could talk about, from the bizarre gun ownership, the flagrant use from my perspective of his religion as a shield from criticism.
But Wendigoon doesn't use his religion to avoid criticism, or at least not that I've ever seen. If it's ever been brought up, then it's to give context to his perspective on things, like when he did his video on the Apocrypha, or books inspired by the Bible but not biblical canon. I've never seen Wendigoon say something controversial just to follow it up with, "I'm Christian, so you can't criticize me." Even still, this is not what IPOS is talking about right here. IPOS seems to not understand that Wendigoon, the man, also serves as Wendigoon, the brand. And so when Wendigoon brings up his religion, it's not in a blatant attempt to boost his brand. It's to add context to who Wendigoon is and why he has certain perspectives on certain things. IPOS's statements here would be better put on someone like Kenneth Copeland, a megachurch pastor who follows the prosperity gospel, or a way of teaching that teaches you to give your money to the church, or Kenneth Copeland, and then God will bless you with that money back tenfold. So all in all, the statement about him being a Christian and the type of Christians he doesn't like is irrelevant to the response video he's making here. And if I were a bad faith critic, I would say that this is another underhanded attack on Wendigoon by calling him the type of Christian who sells his faith for profit. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. I don't think that's what he's intending to do here. Rather, I think this is more of a minimization and or rewriting of what he actually said in his original video. The next few seconds of the video is just IPOS recounting how he was humbled by the fact that people aren't watching his videos one after another, nor are they watching them with such attention that they would be able to pick up on a subtle callback to his earlier videos. I'm gonna leave it in because it's sort of relevant to his next point, but not much of a defense for it.
Because I'm realizing like a big issue with my writing is saying something and just assuming that people understand what I mean, instead of actually trying to explain my point more, because I cover a lot of points in videos, and sometimes I'm guilty of hitting a point really quick and then moving on. Especially because I kind of am also guilty of making a lot of my work assuming wrongly that people are familiar with my past and my like work as well. I kind of make every video, or did make every video, as a sequel to all of my previous work. And that kind of came up twice with the Bad Conservative Horror Movie video. One was an offhanded mention to Lovecraft that I talked about, where people were like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, and you know, like, because I had made like a 2-hour video about Lovecraft in the past, I felt like I could just make an offhanded, like, quick one-sentence reference to Lovecraft and it not be a big deal, and not explain it. You know what I mean? Because I just assumed people will get what I'm talking about because of that video. And another big one that came with is when I talked about race in Appalachia. A lot of people weirdly thought that I was northern or not from Appalachia. People were saying like, you know, Appalachia sends its regards and shit like that. But like, you know, I've lived in the Appalachian Mountains basically my whole life. And I made like a 2+ hour video explaining my complicated views of the American South with the Joanne Denton video, where I talked about how like I love North Carolina and how I've lived here my entire life and how much of an impact this place has had on me. but also to pretend that the South doesn't have a major problem with racism is like kind of insane. And I talk in that video about like the heavy Klan presence in areas of North Carolina. I talk about casual social racism and stuff like that. So like I felt like I was okay to make a one sentence like throwaway thing because I'd already explained my position on that in the past. I don't hate Appalachians. I live here. And I have chosen to live here for a long time now. And the reaction to that in particular, I think, was really strong.
This is another example of the minimization theme here, another rewriting of what actually was said. If you don't remember what he said, it wasn't some one-sentence throwaway argument, it was that Appalachia is extremely racist, and that any white person you meet in Appalachia is assumed to be a racist unless proven otherwise.
Deep Appalachia is very white country, and for the most part, is exceptionally racist. Genuinely in this part of the country, you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise.
And I know it sounds bad, but I didn't take that out of context. He doubles down on that point throughout the rest of that video. He goes on talking about how towns in this area are 90% white and that there are antique stores in these areas that sell paintings and sculptures of Native Americans hunting buffalo, and points to this as evidence of these places being racist, as these shops only sell art of what would be considered a good Native American. Right, as opposed to what? The version where they're all killing each other? Not sure what the point of that is. Or how art in an antique shop is indicative of the current state of race relations in a region that spans several states. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Appalachia. It just seems to me that a region that spans several states being home to plenty of cultures and peoples, every white person in that region being a racist like you say, doesn't really pass the smell test. Now, let's take this versus what he said presently, that because he had done some sort of 2-hour-long video breaking down race relations in North Carolina, he thought that he was now okay to make the sweeping claim that all whites in Appalachia are racists unless they pass IPOS's standard of woke. And somehow that if he had given the proper context, that he would received less hate on the internet for it. I'm not buying it. This one here was minimization and partial deflection of responsibility off of IPOS and onto the audience at large. If we would have just watched a 2-hour-long video from a horror YouTuber about the intricacies of race relations in Appalachia, we would have understood that what IPOS said was a lot less crazy and damaging than it sounded. Right. And listen, I'm not here to say that IPOS shouldn't feel the way he feels. If in his bubble he's experienced more racist whites than not, then that's unfortunate. But putting this as the defense in what is supposed to be an apology video where you're clearing the air is just a bad look. It's a double down disguised as an acknowledgement.
And there was also a lot of criticism saying that like I didn't handle the situation gracefully, which I didn't. But also I'd like to see anybody that would. Things got really intense there. My entire town a few weeks ago was basically destroyed from the hurricane. And like there were like tweets still 5 months later saying, well, at least in Praise of Shadows probably died in that. Things were really, really hot and uncomfortable. You didn't see the best side of me in that. And that's all that I can say is, it was a bad day for me. It was a bad period for me.
Fair enough. The bad conservative horror movies was a colossal screw-up and came across like a very hateful and jealous hit piece about a creator who had never done anything to deserve such a hit piece, and so, yeah, the fallout of it, I would imagine, would be quite difficult to handle well. There's no need to kick him while he's down here or try to explain how he could have handled it better, because even if he had handled it better, the result would have been just the same career-wise. In my opinion, taking the 5 months off, letting the temperature cool off, and then coming back was probably the best move he could have taken. I'm not sure what I would have done differently, and in the case that I decide to attack another creator with poorly researched and easily debunkable talking points, I could see myself taking a similar sort of approach. Not that I would ever do that though, I'm just saying. Don't forget to like and subscribe, by the way.
I was kind of made into this like cartoon character where I am impossible to get along with people who are on the right, which is actually not true at all. I know this sounds like made up, but the guy that I hired to work on the set with me for the John Waters video was wearing a Make America Great Again hat like the entire time we were working. But he does a good job. And that's just the realities of living in the American South. I am not this insane person who, like, it's impossible to get along with. So, yeah. And with the Appalachian thing came an added commentary that I was kind of surprised about, where a lot of people said that I hate poor people, or I look down on people, that I, like, hate lower-income individuals, which, like, I'm a lower-income individual in Appalachia. Like, I don't hate anybody like that. I don't hate anybody at all. I think that everybody should have their needs met no matter what they believe. You know, as far as like reviews are concerned, I am gay, and with that comes like a certain level of snobbery with like the arts and stuff like that. But because I like have high expectations of works of art does not mean that I hate poor people. Okay, I don't think that certain people should be in power. I don't think that certain people should have social power.
I didn't see many criticisms saying that he hated poor people or anything. I'm glad he doesn't, but also, like, I don't think that was an issue. And if it was, I certainly didn't see anything like that. Also, I would like to point out the funny, probably unintentional hypocrisy when he says that because he's gay, that he's in turn an art snob. Like, for someone who's unabashedly leftist as he is, it's just funny for them to subtly, probably without realizing it, do the rules for thee and not for me bit and wind up stereotyping a whole group of people. And I'm not even saying he's wrong. I know plenty of gays who are art snobs. I know plenty of people of plenty of different cultures and orientations or what have you who all like plenty of the stereotypical things that people say that they like. It's just funny to think that if I, a straight dude, were to say something similar, someone like IPOS would call me out on Twitter for being homophobic. Or maybe not, and I've just stereotyped an entire group of people based on their background and actions up to this point. Time will tell.
And in that, I kind of want to get into the conservative video itself. Okay, so in the like hating poor people thing, apparently I also don't like normal guys. And like the thing that's kind of funny about that is that like kind of this whole situation came about because I was a normal guy. So like I'm notoriously difficult to get a hold of. And that's because I'm not really online at all. I don't tweet. I genuinely don't spend much time on Twitter at all. I don't have any other social media. Before this, I was getting on Discord like once every like 6 months. For the most part, I'm not friends with other online content creators. I probably watch in between 3 and 5 YouTube videos a month. And that is not like a dig at other YouTubers. That's not saying that they don't make excellent work, because there's a lot of great work on YouTube.
Sorry, there's a lot of filler here, but I want to touch on him saying that he's not on the internet very much by playing this clip from bad conservative horror movies, edited for brevity.
Some rude and slanderous things have been said about my character, and I just want to clarify that I am not right-wing or bigoted or anything besides thankful for my opportunity to make goofy YouTube. The only thing I believe in is loving God and my wife. Donut operator. You know, the ex-cop who makes death content. The Wendigoon shared a picture of the two of them hugging not long after this. Can be found in the comments of this post asking if Wendigoon wants him to start killing people who said that he was right-wing. I quote tweeted this and said, "Not that I have a stake in this whatsoever, but this is such a non-statement that doesn't even address any of the issues that folks are criticizing him for. Someone using their religion as a shield in the same breath as claiming that they believe in nothing politically is a red flag. Oh, I'm just a goofy, wholesome boy. Please don't ask me why I follow less than 500 people and one of them was Kyle Rittenhouse. Don't ask me about all the guns that I post pictures of. I promise I have no strong beliefs. Apolitical, really. Why are you slandering me? I really only care about this because if you have that large of a platform and make your money from being a public persona, then you are no longer fully a private person, and your political beliefs do in fact matter and are a fair topic of debate. You can't get mad if people call you on questionable things that are said or done if you are making money off of them." Right in the midst of this going on, a very funny thing happened, and that Wendigoon followed me on Twitter. I was not following him at the time. He never publicly told people to stop calling me a friend. He never once reached out to me privately, but he did follow me, which means in my eyes that he 100% knew what was happening because I did tweet about it several times, and then followed me to let me know that he knew, and that he was watching and that he intended to do nothing to stop it. Why else would he follow me in that exact moment? He has never interacted with a single one of my posts. Not one like, not one comment. We are not friends. But he does follow me. He follows next to nobody on Twitter. What other motivation could he have had there to follow me in that specific moment, other than to be a method of quiet and deniable intimidation? What other way could that have been read from my perspective? If you think it was entirely coincidental, which he may argue it was, then I've got a sack of magic beans I'd like to sell to you. That was the moment that pushed me over the edge to make this video.
Sorry, that one is pretty long, but I really wanted him to drive it home just how terminally online he sounds. So now he's saying that he's a normal guy and hard to get a hold of, despite the clear evidence showing symptoms of being terminally online. I'll admit, I'm sure that in his normal life, up until getting involved with the larger internet, that he was, like he said, a bit of a normal guy and wasn't on the internet too much. But the evidence we have here points to him being terminally in his echo chamber and being the instigator of his own downfall on the internet. I'm not docking points for this. I just want to point out that what he said seems to be a lie.
But like, it comes to like this thing where like, back when I used to make comics, I would draw comics all day, and the last thing I'd want to do when I finished drawing for 10 hours would be to like pick up comics and read them before I went to bed. You know, like, I didn't want my entire existence to be comics. I wanted inspiration from everywhere in my life. And so I used to watch a lot of YouTube, like back before I was a YouTuber. But then I started making videos, and you know, I make videos all day long, and I don't want to like turn around and then like watch more YouTube videos. So like when I say I don't watch like a lot of YouTube, it's not to put down other creators, but just to try and to explain how this situation happened, because the why is kind of, you know, self-apparent.
God, I wish that were me. I'm in a constant state of pushing YouTube video essays and watching Instagram reels, pushing all of that information straight to my last two brain cells. If this is true and he doesn't watch a lot of YouTube, then this is a rare moment where I actually wish I had something that this guy has. I guess I'd also want his amount of subscribers too.
And so when you're not an online person, but you feel compelled to write a piece about online culture, looking at it from a distance, trying to figure out what is real, it's a different kind of research. And I totally was not the guy to do that job. I felt like it was important. I felt like nobody else would do it. And I knew that the reaction was not going to be good. I knew it was going to be bad. So kind of most of my mistakes and problems came from that, though. Because, like, I didn't know who Sneeko was before I made that video. And I didn't really know who he was when I posted that video. And so while it's like really serious, and I admit that, and I am sorry, I took the video down like immediately because I realized the video had major problems. But like, it also at the same time, in retrospect, is a little bit funny that I tried to be like, this guy's the fucking worst. At least, you know, according to Hitler. And like, you know, I fucked it. I fucked it pretty bad. And there's not really a lot else I can say about it. You know, what's done is done. I can't take it back.
What he's talking about here, if you forgot, is that in bad conservative horror movies, he brought up Wendigoon being friends with Brandon Buckingham as an issue because, well, I'll just let him say it.
He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun YouTuber who has been accused of threatening...
So he said that without exactly understanding who had accused Brandon of it. This part, I will say, actually adds credibility to IPOS not being as terminally online as it seems because it was Sneeko who accused Brandon Buckingham of threatening Grape. I don't know what the full story is. I too try to keep my Sneeko lore exposure to a minimum, but yeah, if Sneeko is saying that you did something bad or is trying to make you look bad, you're probably one of the good guys. So this is probably a sign of growth. I was halfway expecting IPOS to say that, well, yeah, even though Sneeko is bad, he still says that you threatened to do a bad thing to his sister, so you guys are both bad. And I was glad to see that he didn't do that here. Good for him to owning up to a screw up here with no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is definitely the strongest indicator of growth and change throughout this whole video, and it's good to see. Which is good, because I was getting really tired of not having good things to say about him so far. Believe it or not, I actually want people to do good and get along. I don't like being mean or anything.
But also, ultimately, that's like what a whole section of YouTube is about. I may have done that really badly, but like, there are channels that just exist just to talk shit about people like all the time. And I don't want to be that guy. I'm not trying to be that guy. I am not trying to escalate the situation. I'm just trying to describe my perspective of how this happened. Because at the end of the day, everything's fine. You know, I fucked up. But also, nobody that I mentioned in that video was harmed at all. You know, everybody's doing fine, and that's kind of like how that genre of YouTube works anyways. The whole drama machine ultimately just exists for money, and I shouldn't have been a part of that. I shouldn't have contributed to that. I felt like there were important points to make. I did not word them well. I had no f***ing chill. I could have done pretty much everything in that better, but you live and learn. You know, I don't know what else to say, other than I will do better, and I kind of want to get into, like, personal criticisms against myself now.
Another fair enough point there. I agree that everyone he called out is doing just fine. I would probably imagine that they may have picked up some new fans out of the whole drama, as some people were introduced to them who may not have been otherwise, so yeah, nothing ever happens.
And I kind of want to get into, like, personal criticisms against myself now, because I think that's a good segue. So, like, with that video, there was a lot of comparison to the Dan Olson video that came out soon after mine and the H-Bomber Guy plagiarism video. There was a lot of, like, comparing the three of us, and I think, like, the only commonality between those three videos is YouTubers talking about YouTubers, with two of them being good videos and one of them being, like, a really bad video. But people were ascribing, like, saying that I was jealous, and that's why I was making that video. And I just want to say, I am not a jealous man, and I never have been. I have never made a single video on YouTube to chase trends. I have never made a video because someone made a popular video like that. You know, that is not the kind of guy that I am, and I never will be. I've always made what I think is interesting, what I am compelled to do, what I think is right to do. You know, I can definitely work on my tone with critical pieces, but like, I wasn't doing that video as a ripoff of somebody else's style. You know, for better or worse, that video was authentically me. And to prove that, you can go back and watch the video on Encyclopocalypse that I did the previous summer that has like the exact same tone and wording and style and presentation of that bad conservative horror movie video. You know, they're very, very similar. I feel like as far as critically, this was very me. If it came across as being a ripoff of somebody else, that was not the goal. You know, I feel like that came across to some people and not to some people, but that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. A little bit of a bait and switch argument here. He starts it with, people were saying I was jealous, but I'm not a jealous man, and then transitions that into, as proof, I've never ripped off anyone's style of video. And I think there's two ways to look at what he just said. I think he may have been thinking that people were saying he was jealous of the H-Bomber video on plagiarism and how much attention that got, and so he did his own video, but about bad conservative horror movies and Wendigoon. But I remember from the time, people weren't saying that he was jealous of H-Bomber Guy's video, rather that they were saying that IPOS was jealous of Wendigoon. And so you can either see this as a win for IPOS or not. It really all depends on if you believe that he only saw people saying that he was jealous of H-Bomber Guy and not Wendigoon. I only saw people saying that he was jealous of Wendigoon and all of his success, and so I'm inclined to believe that he is, in fact, a jealous person, or at least was at the time of the bad conservative horror movies video. And with that, I don't think this is a win for IPOS. But again, reasonable doubt exists here, so, you know.
But similarly to the Encyclopocalypse video, I wasn't trying to ruin anybody's life. I wasn't doing this because I wanted a lot of views. In fact, I did know that people were going to hate this. You can go back on my Twitter, and like weeks before I posted it, I said, my next project people are really going to hate. If I said that people are really going to hate this, then that doesn't line up with the narrative of me doing it because I wanted to be popular. You know, with the jealousy thing, like, it feels very strange to me because to my ears, it's like critiquing the president and saying something that you don't like that the president did. And then somebody saying, well, you're just saying that because you want to be president. And like, no, I assure you, I don't want to be the president. Critical pieces can exist on people without them like destroying people, and I actually say that in the bad conservative horror movie video. I said with the John Squire section of that video that I don't want to ruin people's lives because of things that they've said, that I think that we should be forgiving and open to people changing. And if it was just some like dumb thing said like as an 18-year-old, who gives a shit? Everybody said really dumb things when they were a kid, and that shouldn't be held against them. I just saw things that I disagreed with from people that I felt like had a big public platform. Being critical of that doesn't mean that you want their lives to be ruined. You know, I ultimately was making that as an invitation for wanting people to do better. And if the one person who comes out of bad conservative horror movie deciding to do better is me, then that's a good thing. You know?
Bullshit. The bad conservative horror movies video was, yes, a work of critique of the Mad Monster Con, a few movies he didn't like, and Wendigoon. But the entire Wendigoon portion of the video was dedicated to calling him a right-wing, bigoted Nazi who shouldn't be allowed an audience and who is undeserving of his status as a public figure. I'm not going to be sold the idea that he had made the video as an opportunity for people to grow and do better, because at several points in the video, IPOS brought up Wendigoon responding to criticism, growing, and doing better, just for IPOS to either call it insincere or not enough, attacking Wendigoon for his race, age, and socioeconomic status.
I have no need or desire to hear 5 hours of opinions on Blood Meridian from a 21-year-old millionaire who got famous around the age of 19.
Again, I don't think he's wrong to feel the way that he feels, but the evidence points away from him not wanting to ruin anyone's life and reputation, and more towards, well, him wanting to ruin someone's life and reputation. The next minute he talks about him citing sources better from now on in his videos, so we'll just skip that one. I don't think it matters here.
My entire career, I have tried to approach everything with compassion and understanding and love. And you don't have to believe that, but I hope that my track record shows that. You saw me on a really bad day. And I have tried for the past 5 months to really reckon with that and actually confront that. You know, I didn't want to put out like an apology video 2 days afterwards because nobody learns things in 2 days. That's just reacting. It's not listening to what people say and acting. And there's a big difference there. And like everyone, I'm a work in progress. You know, I want to be the best me that I can be. And I'm not saying that to protect my money. I'm not saying that to protect my reputation. I'm saying that because it's true. And if I wanted to protect my money, you know, or my reputation, I would have done this on like the main channel. You're only watching this if you sought this out, you know? So it is what it is. People can think what they want of me. I will continue to do better. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm sorry for everything. Genuinely, where I fucked up, for not having any chill, for just being a kind of an asshole. So I guess that's where I'm going to leave this.
So there it is, 15 minutes in and the apology is there, and it seems all encompassing. I don't necessarily believe him when he says that he approaches everything with love and compassion because, well, one, I'm not gonna watch all of his other videos to confirm his track record, and two, well, he spent 40 minutes of a video just cutting down another creator for no real reason. Not much love or compassion there. Despite this, it is his first drama, his only real screw up as far as I know, and I can't put my finger on it, but I think he means it when he says he'll do better and that he's sorry for, well, everything. A lot of comments on the video were calling him out for putting this on a second channel that he had just created, and IPOS even says that you only found this if you sought it out, and yeah, fair enough. But also, for the most part, I'm subscribed to the way of thinking that it's best generally to say little to nothing at all. I honestly think that if he would have foregone this whole apology video, taken the time off, and then come back with new, better content, then he would have been fine. Obviously, his audience likes him or they wouldn't be subscribed, as well as YouTube is so vast and there are so many people on the platform who probably have no clue about any of this drama, and even if they did, they probably wouldn't care. So along with this video, he posted a 5-hour-long video about John Waters and has been posting more to the second channel where this apology video was posted. So it seems as if he's being true to his word and keeping on. The rest of the video is just him talking about the future plans for his second channel, so we'll go ahead and skip it. You guys seem to not really care for my rubric breakdown last time, so I'll skip that and I'll just give you the scores and why I gave them. So he's gonna get a 4 out of 15 for length. I just think that any apology type video should be short and sweet, and if not that, then at least 10 minutes or less. I don't know, it just seems to me that no matter what drama you're involved in or wrongdoing you did, okay, there's one big exception, but I don't want to say it here, but you should be able to explain all of what it was and make a compelling apology video in around maybe 6 minutes. Full marks would have been awarded if he could have got this done in 6 minutes or less. For sincerity, I'm going to give him a 3 out of 15 on this one because while I do think he was sincere in his feeling that he needed to issue an apology for the mess he created, there seemed to be a lot of minimization and deflection in his retelling of events. I'm not entirely convinced that he fully understands why a whole ton of people were so upset about his all whites from Appalachia are racist bit, and because he seemed to not fully understand it, I'm not confident that he can fully be sincere about it. Full marks would have been awarded if he hadn't tried to minimize, deflect, or rationalize. He didn't need to become anyone's whipping boy or anything, but even though there's surely a change of character based on this video, in the key places that we talked about, there is still a seeming lack of humility. Specificity, I'll give him a 10 out of 15 on this one. He said a whole ton of wild and crazy things in his original video, and I couldn't even list all of them off the top of my head, so I'm not gonna dock him points for not addressing every single one in particular. Otherwise, that would be a much longer video and I probably wouldn't have sat through all of it to make this one. He doesn't score full marks on this one because, again, a few points along the way, his retelling of events wasn't exactly what you would call accurate. And so, seeing as this is the specificity category, being specifically unspecific loses you points. Full marks would have been awarded if he had acknowledged how absolutely wild it was to generalize an entire region of people as a bunch of hillbilly racists simply because they are white and live in Appalachia. The Wendigoon stuff aside, that was the big one that I think needed to be apologized for, and rather than doing that straight on, he beat around it and tried to rationalize his way around it. His plan moving forward is going to score him full marks, 15 out of 15. There's really not much else he can do outside of soldier on and just keep making the content he wants to make, hopefully with a new wisdom of how to interact in regards to critiquing other channels. Readiness. Now, this one is tricky because this category is supposed to lose you points the longer you take to issue your apology, but I think what IPOS said was right. If you issue an apology a few days after what you're apologizing for, saying that you've grown and that you're not the same person anymore, then yeah, that cheapens the whole thing and we have no reason to believe you. So, with my open mind and my own desire to always do better, this category will now revolve around when the apology was most ready to be released and received, versus when the person was most ready. For changing the way I think about my apology cop rubric and for taking the time to gather his thoughts, IPOS gets a 14 out of 15 for readiness. I mean, he took 5 months to do this. I gotta dock at least 1 point. Now, for our last, biggest, and only pass or fail category, was this an apology or a non-apology? Yeah, I think it was an apology. Although he spent a lot of time minimizing certain things and rewriting others, he remained self-aware of what makes a good apology and avoided the single biggest pitfall of YouTuber apologies, which is, I'm sorry if I offended anybody. Watch this clip again.
I'm sorry for everything. Genuinely, where I fucked up, for not having any chill, for just being a kind of an asshole.
He seems legit. I think he has a rather large ego and that his apology took a lot of beating around and working up to, but I think that adds credibility to the apology overall. The man had to take a long look in the mirror, and even though no one will ever be satisfied, he came to terms with the fact that he had messed up and acknowledged it. So his total score adds up to 71 out of 100. And honestly, when I first saw that he had posted his apology to the second channel that was likely not to get as much attention as if he had posted it on the main channel, I was expecting him to score a lot lower. But a C will get you through high school and college, so I'm sure there are plenty of people who will be just fine with this score. I mean, he brings up how he's an average guy, so for the average guy, the average grade is awarded. But that's it for this apology cop video. We recently hit 2,000 subs on this channel because I had one really good slap content video takeoff, so I really appreciate everyone who's here from that. If you're watching and you're one of those people who found me through that video, I hope this is entertaining. I like doing these kind of like apology breakdowns. It's fun. I plan to do a lot more. I've been rather lazy lately and not doing them, so sorry if I talk too fast. I get excited. And my Christmas tree is up. Happy holiday season, everybody. I will have this video out with this still being relevant. I hope you like my wolf shirt. I got this in Solvang, California. It's like a really cute Danish town. But yeah, all in all, I mean, I don't think the apology was bad. I don't think IPOS is being honest with himself about a lot of things that he was addressing in this video. So that's where I think his biggest pitfall was. I still think he does not see what everyone had an issue with, like as clear as like, that's, you know, one of us or someone or one of the people like us who took issue with his video. He just doesn't see it as clearly. And so I'm not going to fault him for that, because he still did like the grown-up thing, manned up and apologized. He didn't have to, because like I said, if you can get away with not apologizing or just saying nothing, fucking don't. But whatever, that's not on me. At some point, I'm going to probably break my own advice here and, you know, apologize for something that I probably didn't have to. So, but so yeah, I mean, and with that, I'm Only Jax, and until next time, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. You made it to the end of the video. You should subscribe, or maybe just leave a like, leave a comment if you please, but I'd rather you subscribe. I check that shit like every day, and when that subscriber number goes up, well, my heart goes up to the sky when you do